How far can prejudice blind justice? What happens when people in power pass judgment based on appearances, not truth? Imagine being sentenced to more than a century in prison, your life, your dreams, everything shattered, only because of how you look. But what if that judge, convinced of your guilt, had no idea about your real connections? Connections that could have changed everything. Can a mother really deserve 125 years behind bars for a nonviolent offense? Or is there something much deeper at play, something more sinister? And what if the very system that's supposed to deliver justice turns out to be driven by prejudice and hidden biases? What would change if the truth about her father, the mayor, had come to light earlier? Would the sentence have been different? Would justice have looked fairer then? In this video, we'll dive deep into a shocking case of injustice, where a black mother found herself at the mercy of a racist judge, only for the court to later discover an explosive secret. Her father is the city's most powerful figure, the mayor. You'll see how a single hidden truth could unravel the entire foundation of the case. We'll explore how systemic bias and discrimination still shape outcomes in our legal system, sometimes with irreversible consequences. We'll also look at lesser-known facts and real-world examples where race, power, and hidden family dynamics created courtroom dramas no one saw coming. The story we're about to tell isn't just about one woman's fight. It's a window into a larger problem affecting thousands. You'll learn why these kinds of cases are not rare and what they reveal about the deep cracks in our justice system. And as we peel back the layers, the real question emerges. How many people like her are trapped in similar situations, their lives dictated by prejudice and hidden power plays? This is a story you won't want to miss. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand what happened in this case, but you'll also see how race and power continue to collide in the most unexpected ways, even in places meant to be fair and impartial. Stick around to the end, because what we uncover may just change how you see justice and injustice forever. Imagine standing in a courtroom, every gaze heavy with judgment. For one black mother, this isn't just a trial. It's a battle for her very survival. A mother accused, thrown into a legal maze that was never designed to see people like her as anything but guilty. The charges she faces aren't for violence or harm, yet the prosecutor demands the harshest penalty possible. A sentence so staggering, -125 years in prison, that it crushes any hope of a life outside those prison walls. She sits at the defendant's table, not as a criminal but as a mother, her thoughts swirling between fear and desperation. She wonders, who will raise my children if I am locked away? Will I ever see them again? But to the judge, she's not a person. She's a statistic, a faceless figure in a system that's been punishing minorities more harshly for decades. No matter what she says, the judge sees her only through the lens of her skin color, dismissing any shred of humanity or potential innocence. This trial isn't just about her actions. It's about how deeply embedded racial bias affects even the most personal corners of justice. The judge, known for being cold and strict, has a history of disproportionately harsh sentences for people of color. He doesn't care about the circumstances surrounding her case. Her words, her emotions, they fall on deaf ears. The only thing the judge believes is that she fits a profile, one that justifies the ultimate punishment. The court proceedings feel like a play where the ending was written long before the first line was spoken. The prosecutor's arguments are steeped in stereotypes, painting her as reckless and irresponsible. There's no room for nuance. The fact that she's a single black mother becomes ammunition, twisted to suggest irresponsibility, rather than a story of resilience in the face of hardship. And each time she tries to defend herself, it feels like the walls close in tighter. What makes it worse? Her fate was decided the moment she walked into that courtroom. The judge isn't just indifferent. He's blinded by prejudice, a bias so ingrained that it leaves no room for fairness or reason. He sees her as someone beneath the protection of justice, a person without power, someone with no allies in the halls of influence. But the judge has no idea just how wrong he is. Unbeknownst to him, The woman he's sentencing has a father whose influence could turn this trial upside down in an instant. That man is the city's most powerful figure, the mayor himself. Yet this detail remains hidden throughout the trial. The mother never mentions it, either out of pride or fear that revealing the truth would only make her case worse. Maybe she wanted to fight this battle on her own. But what happens when the truth finally emerges? When the very system that deemed her unworthy of mercy learns that she isn't powerless at all, that she has the backing of the most powerful man in the city, the very mayor whose authority the judge cannot escape. The courtroom isn't just a stage for justice anymore. It's about to become a battlefield of power and prejudice, where the smallest oversight could change everything. With every tick of the clock, the sentence draws closer. The judge delivers his verdict with an air of finality, unaware that his decision will soon come back to haunt him. He believes he's locked her fate in stone. But what happens when that stone begins to crumble under the weight of the truth? The courtroom settles. The sentence has been handed down. 125 years, an unthinkable punishment. To the judge, it's just another case closed, another undesirable swept off the streets. He sits smugly on the bench, believing justice, his version of it, has been served. But then, whispers begin to circulate, subtle at first, like the shifting of leaves before a storm. Someone, maybe a court clerk or a reporter, brings forward a detail that no one, especially not the judge, was prepared for. The woman he just condemned isn't who he thought she was. She's not just a nobody in the eyes of the powerful. Her father is the mayor, a man with influence far beyond the judge's comprehension. At first, the revelation feels impossible. The judge blinks, confused, his mind racing to connect the dots. How could this woman, this black mother, be the daughter of the mayor? The courtroom atmosphere shifts, thick with tension. The judge, so used to being in control, now feels the ground slipping beneath him. His previous certainty dissolves into doubt. He realizes that the story is far from over, and that his own career and reputation might now hang in the balance. The mayor's name carries weight, not just in the city but throughout the state. It's the kind of name that forces powerful men to tread lightly. If the judge had known, would he have passed the same harsh sentence, or would fear and self-interest have softened his ruling? Now, as the truth crashes over him, the judge realizes that his arrogance may have been his greatest mistake. He assumed he knew everything. He saw only what he wanted to see. A woman of color, a defendant without privilege, and in his eyes, a person who deserved no leniency. Suddenly, the once certain judge begins to panic. His years on the bench have taught him that power operates in layers, and now the layer he missed threatens to unravel his carefully curated authority. His pulse quickens. What happens when the mayor learns about this sentence? What will be said in the papers when reporters dig into the case and uncover the truth? The image of the racist judge, handing down a brutal sentence to the mayor's daughter, will make headlines for weeks. A storm is brewing, and it's headed straight for him. But the stakes go beyond public scandal. This isn't just about his reputation. It's about his future. Judges are supposed to be impartial, fair, immune to the sway of power. But deep down, the judge knows he was neither fair nor impartial. He let his bias guide him. And now that bias has placed him in the crosshairs of one of the most powerful men in the city. If the mayor decides to retaliate, the judge's career could be over in an instant. Every case he's ever ruled on might come under scrutiny. His past sentences could be overturned, his name dragged through the mud. The mayor, too, will face questions. Why didn't he reveal that the defendant was his daughter from the start? Was it a test to see how justice would be served without influence? Or was it a trap, a way to expose the deep-rooted prejudice within the court system? The judge's mind spins with possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. The simple case he thought he'd wrapped up has turned into a ticking time bomb, with no way of knowing when or how it will explode. In the aftermath of the shocking revelation, emotions run high. The courtroom that once felt rigid and indifferent now simmers with tension, anticipation, and disbelief. The Black mother, exhausted and heartbroken, sits quietly as the weight of everything settles in. To the world she might look calm, but inside, a storm rages. This wasn't just a trial. It was supposed to be the end of hope, a sentence that would separate her from her children forever. But everything has changed in a single moment. The mayor, now standing in the spotlight, faces a complicated web of emotions. This isn't just about politics or public perception. It's about his daughter, the woman he raised and now must protect. For years, the mayor built a reputation as a powerful leader, respected and feared by many. Yet here he is, learning that his daughter was forced to stand trial without his support, condemned by a system he oversees. The realization hits hard. He wasn't just absent as a father. He failed to anticipate how dangerous it was to leave her exposed to the biases of the justice system. But the stakes aren't just emotional. They're political too. If the public finds out that the mayor kept his relationship with the defendant hidden, his entire career could crumble. Was it pride that kept him silent, or a calculated move to see how justice would play out for those without power? This question lingers in the air, casting doubt over everything. Journalists are already digging, looking for cracks in the mayor's story, hoping to uncover scandals that could topple his administration. The judge, meanwhile, realizes the full depth of his mistake. This is no longer just about a wrongful sentence. It's about a family reunion that could explode into a public scandal. The mayor isn't someone who forgives easily, and the judge knows that he's now at the mercy of a man with the power to ruin him. Every step the judge takes from here on will be carefully watched, every ruling questioned, every decision scrutinized. He feels cornered, trapped by his own prejudice, and desperate to contain the damage. But there's no easy way out. For the mother, this revelation stirs conflicting emotions. On one hand, she feels betrayed by the father who stayed silent while she faced the darkest moments of her life. Why didn't he step forward earlier? Was her suffering a test of strength, or just an oversight by a man too consumed by power? The weight of these questions presses down on her, leaving her with little time to process the complex emotions rising within. At the same time, her children remain her greatest concern. Will this twist of fate be enough to reunite her with them? Or will the media circus that follows this revelation bring more chaos into their lives? She knows that the fight isn't over yet. The public eye is unforgiving, and her story, now a symbol of injustice, will be debated endlessly on talk shows, news channels, and social media platforms. The mayor now faces a pivotal decision. Does he pull strings to overturn the sentence quietly, or does he turn this case into a public reckoning for systemic racism? Both paths are dangerous, but doing nothing isn't an option. If he remains silent, he risks losing the trust of his constituents, and worse, the love of his daughter. If he acts, he might expose himself to backlash from those who see his interference as favoritism. The mother's fate hangs in the balance, teetering between justice and politics, love and betrayal. The courtroom, once a place of cold judgment, has transformed into an arena where power and prejudice collide. And as the truth spreads beyond the walls of the courtroom, everyone involved will be forced to confront the consequences of their actions or inactions. Each passing second builds suspense. The judge's career, the mayor's reputation, and the mother's freedom are all at stake, and none of them can predict how the story will end. The news breaks like wildfire. Headlines scream about the judge's heavy-handed sentence, but they also dive deep into the shocking details. The mother's father is the mayor. Suddenly, everyone feels they have a stake in this story. Social media explodes with opinions, hashtags trending as citizens grapple with the implications of a flawed justice system. The public, once indifferent, now rallies around the mother, and their voices grow louder, echoing her plight across every platform. The mayor, caught in this storm, faces the wrath of voters who feel betrayed. How could he let this happen? They ask. He appears on television, but his voice cracks with emotion, revealing the man behind the politician. The media twists and turns his words, desperate to catch a moment of weakness. Protesters gather outside the courthouse, holding signs that read, "Justice for the mother," and "End racism in the courts." The atmosphere is electric, a mix of anger and hope, and the mayor realizes he must act fast. But the question looms over him: how? Every decision he makes now carries the weight of scrutiny. If he intervenes, will it be seen as a desperate bid to save face, or a true act of paternal love? Meanwhile, the judge sits in his chambers, watching the chaos unfold on the news. The growing tension is palpable. He never expected to be at the center of such public outrage, and he can feel the walls closing in on him. As the public debate rages, voices of activists rise, demanding accountability from the judge and the entire legal system. This isn't just about one mother, it's about all those who suffer in silence. One activist passionately states during a live interview, her words resonate with many who feel invisible in a system rigged against them. The judge knows he must tread carefully, but self-preservation kicks in. He hires a PR team to manage the fallout, fearing that if he doesn't act, his reputation may become irreparably damaged. The media frenzy escalates, showcasing protests, interviews, and heated discussions about racial bias in the courtroom. Shocking statistics about sentencing disparities surface, painting a bleak picture of injustice. Each report intensifies the pressure on the judge, who must now confront the ugly truths he thought he could ignore. The mother, watching the events unfold from the confines of her prison cell, experiences a roller coaster of emotions. For the first time, she feels seen. The world knows her name, and a surge of hope fills her heart. But alongside that hope, fear lingers. What if this outcry doesn't change anything? What if her story fades into another headline, forgotten by the same public that once rallied for her? In the midst of the uproar, the mayor realizes he can't just stand by. He calls for a press conference, a move that sends shockwaves through the media. When he steps onto the stage, cameras flash, and microphones thrust toward him. The nation holds its breath. This is not just a political speech. It's a father's plea for justice, and the emotional weight of his daughter's situation hangs heavily in the air. "I cannot sit idly by while my daughter suffers," he declares, his voice steady but filled with emotion. The crowd gasps, journalists scribble furiously, and the judge feels a chill run down his spine. He knows the mayor's words could ignite a fire that even he cannot control. Will he demand a retrial? Will he call for the judge's resignation? As the mayor continues, he promises to work toward reforming the justice system, to ensure no one else faces such unjust treatment. But will his words translate into action? The judge, aware that his fate is intertwined with the mayor's decision, feels a growing dread. The power struggle shifts, and with it, the course of justice. Each moment builds suspense. The entire nation watches, waiting to see how this story unfolds, the line between justice and revenge blurring with every headline. In the midst of this chaos, a question remains: who will truly pay the price for a system riddled with prejudice? As the mayor makes headlines with his heartfelt plea, the atmosphere shifts drastically. The judge feels the heat intensifying, his mind racing as he contemplates the fallout from the media frenzy and the mayor's public statements. Will he be held accountable for his actions? Doubts begin to gnaw at him, and he can almost hear the ticking clock counting down to his inevitable reckoning. In the quiet corners of the courthouse, whispers circulate. Lawyers, staff, and even jurors start to question the integrity of the trial. How could a judge so blind to the personal history of the defendant make such a harsh ruling? Each whisper feels like a growing storm, a silent uprising against the very foundation of justice that he once stood for. His authority crumbles bit by bit. Meanwhile, the mother, despite the glimmer of hope brought on by her father's public support, remains shackled in a cold cell, her future uncertain. Every day feels like a year. With each tick of the clock, she imagines her children, their faces haunted by the absence of their mother. Her heart aches. torn between hope and despair. Will her father's influence be enough to change her fate, or will it only amplify the injustices she has already faced? The emotional strain weighs heavily on her, intensifying with every report of public protests and demands for justice. Supporters rally outside the courthouse, chanting her name, yet she wonders if their cries will truly penetrate the walls of power that seem so distant from her reality. What if the mayor's attempts to reform the system only serve to silence her story? This fear gnaws at her, a constant companion in her solitude. The judge, on the other hand, begins to receive letters filled with anger and accusations. Each envelope feels like a dagger aimed at his conscience. How could you? They demand. The public outcry transforms him from a respected figure to a target of disdain. In the dead of night, he wonders if he'll ever be able to escape the shadows of this trial. He knows that people are not just angry. They are ready for change, and he has become the face of everything wrong with the system. As the days drag on, the pressure escalates. The mayor, now painted as a hero by some and a coward by others, begins to lose support within his own political party. His decision to intervene in his daughter's case raises eyebrows. Is he acting out of love, or is this merely a political maneuver? Questions about his motivations linger like an unwelcome specter, haunting his every public appearance. In this turmoil, the judge receives a chilling message from an anonymous source, hinting at a potential investigation into his actions. The words leap off the page. Your days are numbered. Anxiety grips him. What does this mean for his career? As he walks the halls of the courthouse, he can feel the eyes of his colleagues piercing through him, judging every move he makes. The tension is palpable, and he wonders how long he can keep his composure. In the midst of this chaos, the mother's plight captures the hearts of the nation. Advocates for racial justice and equality turn her case into a rallying cry. Every interview she gives, every word she speaks, ignites passion among supporters who vow to see her free. But for every cheer that rises, there's also the question of what this newfound attention means for her children. They are living in a world that is now under a microscope, their lives exposed to scrutiny and speculation. As the story gains traction, politicians, activists, and journalists converge around the case, each with their own agenda. Some see it as an opportunity for reform, while others seek to exploit it for their gain. The lines between justice and manipulation blur, leaving the mother caught in a whirlwind of intentions. Will she be able to navigate this chaos, or will it swallow her whole? The stakes grow higher. The clock is ticking down to the next court date, where everything will come to a head. The judge knows he must prepare for a potential showdown. The public expects him to make a decision, one that could either redeem him or seal his fate. Each passing moment feels charged with suspense. The weight of accountability looms over everyone involved. The judge, the mayor, and the mother, all must confront their roles in a system designed to protect some while failing others. In the end, it's a reckoning that promises to change everything. As the mother's story spreads like wildfire, it ignites a fierce debate about systemic racism in the justice system. People everywhere begin to wonder, how many more stories like hers remain hidden in the shadows? Demonstrators gather in droves, chanting slogans demanding justice, not just for one, but for all. With each passing day, it becomes clear that this case is no longer just about one woman's fight. It's a battle that resonates deeply within communities across the nation. The air crackles with tension as activists organize marches, seeking to shed light on the pervasive discrimination that plagues the judicial system. Can the actions of one judge truly reflect a larger problem? The question hangs heavy, compelling people from all walks of life to reconsider their own experiences with injustice. The protests draw in not only locals but national figures, all united in the demand for accountability. The energy is electric, but so is the fear. What if their voices go unheard? Meanwhile, news outlets pick up the story, bringing it to living rooms across the country. Every headline raises the stakes. Commentators discuss the implications of the judge's decision, emphasizing how it highlights the disparities faced by people of color in the legal system. The story morphs into a symbol of hope for some and a stark reminder of failure for others. Will this push lawmakers to take real action, or will it become just another trending topic that fades away? In the courtroom, the atmosphere shifts dramatically. The judge finds himself at the center of a media storm, with reporters lurking outside, ready to pounce on any slip of his tongue. The pressure weighs on him as he realizes the eyes of the nation are watching, waiting for a sign of integrity or further injustice. His gavel feels heavier with every case he oversees, a constant reminder of the scrutiny he faces. Back in the mother's world, hope and despair clash violently. She sees the headlines and hears the chants, feeling both uplifted by the support and burdened by the weight of public expectations. Will her father's position as mayor change the narrative, or will it complicate things further? Her children, who once played innocently, now find themselves part of a larger story they never asked to be in. They overhear conversations filled with anxiety and anticipation, their young minds trying to comprehend a battle that feels so monumental. The local community rallies around her, organizing fundraisers and awareness events. But with every rally, there are counter-protests from those who resist change. The divide becomes more pronounced, mirroring the nation's deep-rooted issues with race and justice. Some individuals shout for law and order, while others scream for justice and equity. The clashing voices fill the streets, turning neighborhoods into battlegrounds of ideology. As the case approaches a pivotal moment in court, questions loom large in the air. What will be the outcome? Will the judge recognize the weight of his decision, or will he remain steadfast in his prejudices? Activists prepare for both victory and defeat, knowing that the ramifications will echo far beyond the walls of the courthouse. This battle, once a singular story, evolves into a movement, fueling discussions in cafes, on social media, and within family gatherings. People begin to confront their biases, questioning their own roles in perpetuating a system that often fails the most vulnerable. The drama of one woman's sentencing exposes a fissure in society, demanding not only attention but action. And as the courtroom doors prepare to swing open for the next hearing, the stakes couldn't be higher. Everyone is poised for change, but will it come? The fight for justice hangs in the balance, a potent reminder that, in the end, the struggle for equity is not just a fight for one, but for all. As the news of the mother's harsh sentence spreads, a wave of outrage crashes over the nation. People from all walks of life take to the streets, demanding justice. Signs with powerful slogans fill the air, reflecting a deep frustration that resonates with many. How could this happen in a system meant to protect? The shock transforms into a collective cry for accountability, drawing in not only locals but activists from far and wide. Amidst this turmoil, social media becomes a battleground for opinions. Hashtags like #JusticeForHer and #EndRacism trend worldwide, connecting voices that were once isolated. Videos of emotional speeches and passionate debates flood timelines, igniting discussions in households and classrooms. Young people, especially, feel compelled to join the conversation, believing this moment could spark real change. Will their voices finally be heard, or will they fade into the background like so many before them? Back at the courthouse, tension thickens as each hearing approaches. The air buzzes with anticipation. Will the judge show any signs of remorse or understanding? The courtroom fills with supporters, wearing matching T-shirts and holding banners, their presence a physical testament to the support behind the mother's case. But outside, counter-protesters stand firm, shouting slogans that echo a different narrative. The stark divide is palpable, and the stakes are higher than ever. Local news stations dispatch reporters to cover the growing story, capturing raw emotions in interviews with family members and activists. One father, fighting back tears, tells the camera, "This could be my daughter one day. We can't let this happen." Each story shared amplifies the urgency of the cause, transforming personal experiences into a rallying cry. As more people engage, the conversation begins to shift towards a deeper exploration of systemic racism within the judicial system. Experts are invited to speak on talk shows, shedding light on how biases can distort justice. They reveal disturbing statistics. Black defendants often receive harsher sentences than their white counterparts for similar crimes. This data ignites a firestorm of discussion, pushing more individuals to confront uncomfortable truths about race and privilege in their own lives. But even as hope flickers, doubts linger. Will the momentum be enough to change the narrative, or will it fall victim to complacency? Each day brings new developments, but not all are positive. Some lawmakers remain resistant to the calls for reform, citing law and order rhetoric that many feel is rooted in fear rather than justice. Can the movement withstand this pushback, or will it crumble under pressure? In living rooms across the country, families gather to discuss the case, each perspective adding layers to the unfolding drama. Children are asking questions that challenge their parents. Why isn't this fair? These conversations ignite a newfound awareness, emphasizing that the fight is not just for one mother, but for all who have faced similar injustices. With each rally, the stakes intensify. The community becomes a living organism, breathing hope and resilience into the atmosphere. Yet there's an undercurrent of fear. What if the mother loses? What would that mean for everyone rallying behind her? The uncertainty grips the crowd like a vice, tightening with each passing moment.